We are back with another episode of our WandaVision review for episode 3, because we've already reviewed episode 1 and 2 in one shot.
Yeah.
I see it's still growing on you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like a cis.
well, that's I don't know if that's a good thing or
I
oh,
mean, have you watched Dr. Pimple Popper?
I have not, and you've tried me to get to watch it, but
Well,
I am
if
not.
if you have having a growth that's a cis you wouldn't want on you.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm gonna say this. It is getting a little it's getting a little tiring because what we're watching are literally just what is the word I'm looking for? Retro television series episodes.
This
So
is
it's
the
like
third episode in, and it feels as if they are ripping off every popular 70s,
well, first it was
80s.
50s, then it was 60s, then it was so the first one looked like the Dick Van Dyke Show. The
Mhm.
second one was Bewitched. This one
Today
was this
one
a
was
70s.
this one was the Brady Bunch.
I see, I guess. I mean, yeah, it had that Brady
The
Bunch color.
layout, the layout of the house was
Oh,
was
you're right.
was was Brady Bunch.
Yeah. And so it's very weird because you're just sitting here going, okay, so like how long are we gonna do? Like, are we
Hmm.
literally gonna come up to 2020 or like, what's happening? And so I will say that the pacing for WandaVision, I'm not a fan of, but I'm gonna get to the end. So let's just try and run through the episode really quickly. I mean,
Yada yada yada. 70s jokes. A little
yeah,
magic, a little display of powers.
right.
Yada yada yada. 70s joke, a little magic,
Right.
display of powers.
So it basically starts with where we
It had
left
like
off.
a Brady Bunch feel, also
Mhm.
mixed with a little bit of Alfred Hitchcock or Get Out. The way it
Well,
went.
well, yeah. I mean, but see, that element has been, well, you're right. It was very Get Outish. The episode starts with from picking up from the last episode where WandaVision was
So you're
Wanda.
going to go through the whole
I'll go
episode?
through it quickly. It starts with Wanda being pregnant. A doctor comes to see her.
And
And you,
FYI,
uh,
we didn't even know Vision had that sort of. Let me look for a correct
that
term.
well, Vision has had children in the MCU,
But in the live action universe, that
right?
has not been completely confirmed that he is able
Alive.
to reproduce.
Oh, able to reproduce. Yeah, well, it wasn't confirmed in MCU either until they just wrote it in there. So yeah, the doctor comes to check her out, and what they notice is that she is
Because if that's
the
the case, imagine if Vision was a pervert. Imagine what he
that's
could do with all
weird.
that, all of
That's
that,
why are
all
you
of
going?
that power.
That's weird that you're going there. Okay, I mean, I don't want to imagine.
He could just phase through walls.
Okay. And so they did realize that the child is developing at a rapid pace.
A rapid
Vision,
pace. It's like
rapid
light
pace.
speed.
Yeah. And Vision and Wanda are both debating. Wanda wants to name the child Tommy. Vision wants to name the child Billy. And they go back and forth with that. The child is
How
developing.
about flash drive?
The child is developing at a rapid pace. You start to notice that Wanda's powers are kind of on the fritz every time she feels like a Braxton Hicks contraction. Fast forward about 3 hours later, because Vision at first, based on this rate of her pregnancy at the beginning of the episode, says that she'll have it in 3 days. But cut to like 3 hours later, she's in full on labor. Her powers are out of whack. Her black neighbor named Geraldine, who is played by Teyana Paris, comes to visit, and they had painted the baby's bedroom, and they painted a stork on the wall. So apparently, Wanda's powers made the stork come to life, and the stork is just walking around the room, and we see that Wanda cannot make the stork disappear. So the birth of this child is having this weird effect on her powers. She's trying to keep Geraldine from noticing the stork, and she does, but she actually goes into full on labor, and Geraldine helps her give birth to her child, which they name, which when Vision gets back, he sees the child, he names the child Tommy. Vision then is Wanda then goes into labor again and has another child, and this child is named Billy. So they have twins named Tommy and Billy. While this is going on with Wanda, Vision is running back and forth throughout the city. First, he ran to get the doctor, but then a very interesting scene occurs, which is where Mike talks about it's being similar to Get Out, which is where he leaves, Vision leaves, and when Vision goes to outside, I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. I forget where it happens in the series. It's not
The neighbor is trimming
the hedges,
his
the
hedges.
the black neighbor, and as he's cutting
Vision is selling them like you're getting a little close.
right, but he's actually cutting the fence. He's completely cutting into
not
the
even
fence.
a fence. He's cutting the brick wall. It's
Yeah,
not a
I mean, yeah,
fence.
that's right. He's cutting the brick wall. And so he's like, oh yeah, okay, thanks for letting me know. And so then
While he's still cutting.
right.
At this whole time, he is still continuing the same direction, undeterred at
Right.
all.
It's cut, and it's cutting through the brick wall. And now I remember exactly where this scene occurs. This scene occurs after Wanda has the twins. So Wanda is in the house with the twins with Geraldine. And so what then happens is while Vision is outside talking to the man cutting his next door neighbor,
Geraldine goes to the Scarlet Witch. You know your husband has crabs.
She does not. She does not.
I mean, we're just making stuff up. That would have been a good ad-lib.
It would have. And so while Vision is outside, Catherine Hahn, who plays the character Agnes, who's been in every episode, also walks up to I believe that's her husband, the bigger black man. I don't know his name at this point. Walks up to him.
It's a lot of black people for 50s America.
Well, listen, it's about diversity. Wanda, who you're going to learn a little bit more about later on, is a very diverse woman. And so Catherine Hahn says to him like, oh, where's Geraldine? And Vision is like, oh, she's in the house with Wanda. And then Catherine Hahn is like, huh, don't you notice something different about her? Something is different about her. She's not like everyone else.
She's not from here.
Right, well, like not from here. Something like that. Something
and she lives by herself. She isn't married or something.
Yes, they point out the difference between Geraldine and the rest of the characters that we've seen so far. And so Vision stops and she's like, I hope she's okay. And so when they're saying that, they cut back into the house, and Wanda and Geraldine are talking. Geraldine is talking about the twins being like how they're pretty, and Wanda says she had a brother. She had a twin brother. His name was Piotr. And that's when Geraldine is like, oh, and then Geraldine slips and says, oh, it's like something like, it's a shame that Piotr died. And then that's when Wanda is snapped out of whatever, her.
That wasn't what she said.
What did she say?
She said, Thanos killed your husband.
She did not say. Wait, did she? Oh, no, yes. No. She said Ultron killed Piotr. She didn't say Thanos. She said Ultron. I'm sorry.
And she said Thanos killed your husband.
No, she said, I'm sorry, Ultron killed Piotr. And that's what snapped.
I don't think you're right. I think she said Thanos killed.
Well, we'll put it out there for the comments, and that's what snaps Wanda out of her whatever reality she's in, and she goes, "How did you know about that?" Once again, Mike and I are just paraphrasing, and when she looks at Geraldine's necklace, we see the emblem of the sword, which is for the sword organization that took over for S.H.I.E.L.D. And you see Wanda near her saying, what is that necklace? And Geraldine covers the necklace and looks nervous. We then cut back out to Vision where Catherine Hahn is like, oh, well, I guess everything will be okay. And then they just kind of walk away. And when Vision comes back into the room, Geraldine is gone. And when he asks about Geraldine, Wanda's just like, oh, she had to leave. Another instance of this happening earlier is when Vision seems to, when she's having the Braxton Hicks contractions, Vision seems to notice that something's wrong. Like, this isn't how things are supposed to happen. And so what he ends up doing is he says to Wanda, like, I think something's wrong. I think something's different. And then we get a snap, like we get just a flash, and it just cuts back like 2 or 3 seconds, and then he leans into her again and says something completely different. And so we're seeing Wanda correct this universe that she lives in. After we see that Wanda has after we see, after he sits down and they hug each other and they're happy about their new family, we get a cut to a scene of a town sign called Westview. And there's like this blurry like barrier around Westview. And we see someone fly out of the barrier and hit the ground. And lo and behold, we see Geraldine on the floor, and we see a whole like military encampment outside, basically like, saying, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And Geraldine saying, "Yeah." And so now it has opened us up to basically what is going on. Clearly, Wanda is in this town, Westview, and is using her abilities to change Westview into her own reality. Now, I mean, does this like is this a big revelation? I don't know about how big a
You knew
revelation it
from
is.
you knew from last week that you were watching some sort of simulation.
Right,
What you weren't sure of was, is Wanda strapped down in a medical
right,
office somewhere,
right,
or is it how we end up viewing today that she's actually possessing a whole town?
right. And see, another question that I have is, once again, we saw another commercial regarding Hydra soap.
Mhm.
And there are so many elements of Hydra present. And so that kind of leads you to believe, like, okay, well, if this is after Infinity War and Endgame, Hydra no longer exists. Now, are these throwbacks to Hydra because of Hydras who raised her? Or is it a situation where Hydra is holding her and that's why she has this like alternate reality going on? Does Hydra actually play a role in what's going on right now? I mean, those are questions that I'm curious about, you know?
Very, very, very much so. And the thing about the show that took a while to draw me in is we're in episode 3,
Yeah.
and it's almost as if I'm watching a bad sitcom, not
Well,
a Disney Marvel series.
yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Like I do, it is kind of like, okay, we get it. She's going through, like, she's creating the virtual life, the life that she's always wanted but was taken away from her by Thanos. And so we get that. But it's kind of like, we got it after the first 2 episodes,
Mhm.
we're good. And so now, because I've seen images for the next episode, like online, and basically it's just going to be like them dealing with the babies. So it's like, oh boy, like, how are we really just going to keep doing this over? Like, when are we going to get to a point when are we going to get to a point where we're just talking about what is happening now? What is going on with Wanda? Like, do we know this is in her head? But come on, like, what's happening? Like,
Is this by choice? Is someone doing this to her? If someone is doing this to her, where's the rest of the Avengers that
right,
are
exactly.
left?
Right.
My
I mean,
whole
mhm.
the pacing just, it's not what I expected for it to be Marvel's first show. To
Yeah,
be honest, it's an experiment. This is something you do after you've laid a foundation, and you know what, I could take a risk here.
right.
They are taking a risk out the gate,
I mean,
and
they're both. I mean, I give it to them. They're bold enough to do it. Like, I mean, honestly, if someone is going to take a risk, it's going to be Marvel, because everything else they've put out has pretty much, been successful on some level. So
Mhm.
I could see them going, "F it, let's just ride this out. See if people like it. If not, oh well." you
Yeah,
know.
it's Wanda and Vision. If people don't like it, they're not really mainstays in the Marvel universe anyway.
Well, that's the whole thing. From what I understand, the next that's the thing. From what I understand, this leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or the madness of the multiverse. I forget how it goes. And so, and there's speculation that she is the villain, or like she's primarily responsible for it. So they've already got us in this like situation where we need to watch this if we really want to thoroughly
Well,
understand what's going on.
it's nothing wrong with it, but
Yeah,
I'll
but
say
it
this:
mhm.
compared to, it's not fair to compare them, but comparing it to The Mandalorian, which attracted new viewers,
Right,
I don't believe this is attracting new viewers. I believe the diehards will stick with it because it's Marvel.
right, yeah,
You
definitely.
aren't, you know, if you try to get someone who's not interested in the characters at all, you're like, why am I watching this horrible sitcom?
Right, right, right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think okay, we're at episode 3. You've let us know that the town she's in and basically what's kind of happening. I'm really hoping that we get a very short episode, like a very short sequence in episode 4 of like, once again another sitcom, but then we transition into okay, we got to get inside that town. Like maybe half of the episode is Wanda and the other half is because I mean I'm under the impression that Geraldine, played by Teyana Paris, shout out to her, great job you're doing, lady. Um, is Monica Rambeau, and they are trying to get inside that barrier. Like I want to see because now you keep tweaking. Wanda, are you there on the radio? Then she's, you're seeing it again. Wanda, can you hear us? Wanda, we're trying to get to you. And now
Yeah.
you see in this episode, you see them outside. So now, next episode, I want to maybe a good 10 minutes of them. We're trying to get in there. She's got this blankety blank barrier up. Who should we call to get inside? Like real discussion as towards how we're going to get inside that barrier.
I, I, I feel a better pacing would have been, you know how the Mandalorian series was? You have one great episode and you have a
Right.
filler.
Yeah.
They have given us 3 fillers back to back.
But remember, I told you, Paul Bettany said the way it's going to be is 5 fillers and 5 crazy episodes back to back. So it's going to be 5 really slow.
Well,
Like, what is this?
as you said in the beginning, the pacing is just bad.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the pacing. You're tired. Like we're tired. We get it because like now it's to a point where it's like, all right, what 80s TV series are we gonna do next week?
Yeah, and also it's to the point where I'm watching it in the background as I'm doing other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It happens to be on, and I happen to glance up every now and then. Nothing in the show has transpired to where I'm sitting down on the edge of my seat, where I can't wait to see what is next.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's the fault of the writers' room or whoever
Well,
was in
it,
charge of just.
yeah, I see. I don't want to say it's the writers' room because, in all fairness, it is the writers' room, but it isn't. And I'll say it, and this is why. Because, in all honesty, I think that the quality of the show is fine, and the writing and the act, like all of it is good. It's just that I don't want that. You know what I mean? It's like no, what they're doing with the sitcom style stuff, the cinematics of it, like how they shot it, how they actually did it by 4:3 aspect ratio. All of that is really cool, but I don't want that.
The
I
selling
want
point
something else.
the selling point of having the Disney streaming service and watching it for the Marvel or the Star Wars properties is
Mhm.
I want to see Star Wars stuff. I
Right.
want to see Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
If I wanted to sit down and watch a sitcom, I could go to Netflix. I could go to Amazon.
Or
I'm not
basically,
tuning
or
in.
Nick at Night, which is what
Yeah,
all of that stuff is.
I'm not tuning in, waking up early in the morning to watch Marvel style sitcom.
Right, right. So, I mean, so yeah, here we are. This is our opinion. And let me reiterate, I don't think it's a bad series. I do think I mean, obviously we're going to stick with it, but at the end of the day, I'm not a fan of the pacing. But what I do hope is that the payoff is going to be, like I said, 5 hardcore, really
You hope.
fast-paced episodes. Yeah,
You
that's my
hope.
hope. Like I'm
The
hoping
payoff
for it.
the payoff could be a different strokes episode.
Which I would take it. I would take a different strokes episode.
when Paul Bettany comes in with a Gary Coleman lookalike.
Yeah, well, I'll take that. So, that is it. That has been our WandaVision episode 3 review. We will be back next Friday with our next episode.
I don't know if that shit's gonna happen, but maybe.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we're back. Peace.
You've been listening to Two Brothers at a Water Cooler with Mike and Tom, produced by Jamie Fernandez and Peter Bune. Rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts, and you might find your review in a future episode.